In the village of Paslow, there is a legend that long ago a villager befriended a wolf who would improve the village wheat harvest every year. In time, however, the soil suffered and the wolf was feared, leading to the expression, "the wolf ate the wheat." Many generations later, the wolf rarely reveals herself and wonders if the humans of Paslow need her anymore. Lawrence is a young traveling merchant carrying furs and wheat. He arrives in Paslow in time for the harvest festival and is greeted by many villagers. In Paslow, he goes to meet Chloe, his former student, and arrives to see her selected to represent the role of Holo, the wolf deity, in the village's harvest festival. As part of the festival, they chase her as she has harvested the last wheat and lock her up in a warehouse for a week. Lawrence then meets the village chief, who credits the village's prosperity with the new Earl Arendelle, and that the village does not need to pray to the wolf deity anymore. Lawrence goes to camp outside the village but finds a girl with wolf ears in his cart. She howls at the moon and Lawrence thinks she is crazy. She reveals herself as Holo, the wolf deity of the village who has turned into a more human form, though she is frustrated that the village thinks she is a god. She tells Lawrence of her homeland, the snowy land of Yoitsu in the north, and asks if she can travel with him. He asks Holo to prove she is the wolf deity, but he is frightened and she disappears. That night he meets Chloe, who expresses interest with him and wishes to be more than a business partner. He is distracted from meeting Holo and speaks of the legend, but she dismisses the wolf deity as a fantasy. Later that night, Lawrence meets Holo again. Usually she is trapped in the last wheat but was able to teleport to him through the wheat he brought in the village. She states that the countless good harvests have a price and the village's bad harvests were inevitable. As the villagers do not want her anymore, she has decided to leave. Lawrence decides to let her travel with him. Holo formally introduces herself as Holo the Wise Wolf. It starts to rain and the two take refuge at a church. Inside the church, Holo explains that the wheat she is connected to will never spoil, but they should still take good care of it. Lawrence decides to thresh the wheat into grain to give to Holo for safekeeping. At the church, they meet a local nobleman and Lawrence makes a good impression on him, talking about his merchant travels. Afterwards, the pair meet Sharon, a young merchant who informs Lawrence on a plan to trade old silver coins with new ones to be released soon by another country, which could lead to potential profit. Later that night, Holo states that Sharon is lying about his intentions. Lawrence decides to go along with Sharon's offer to discover the truth of the scheme. The two merchants later decide to meet up again in the port city of Pasio, after Lawrence has sold his furs and has more money for the scheme. Heading away from the church, Lawrence remembers a time when his party was attacked by wolves. Holo defends the wolves' actions as defending their home. Lawrence asks if Holo has ever eaten a human, and Holo refuses to answer him. The pair arrive in Pasio, and Holo is entranced with the smell of all the different food in the market. She convinces Lawrence to buy her some apples and is shocked with how many apples she manages to eat. They then arrive at Mylone Trading Company, where Lawrence had previously sold wheat 3 years ago. He negotiates the price for his 70 marten furs and they settle on 140 Trenny silver coins. Holo points out the sweet smell of the furs, which now smell like apples due to all the apples Lawrence had bought for Holo. Entranced by the sweet smell, the Mylone merchant agrees to 210 Trenny silver coins for the furs. After the deal, Lawrence reveals that at the trading company he spoke to other merchants who could not confirm Sharon's claim of the new silver coins. That night, Lawrence meets Sharon and they agree on the deal. Sharon will tell Lawrence ahead of time which silver coins will be readjusted and will take a 10% share of the profit as payment for the insider information, while Lawrence trades old silver coins for new ones as the new coins will go up in value. That night, Lawrence teaches Holo on the different currencies. The next day, Holo and Lawrence discuss the different currencies, and Lawrence reveals that countries will often increase the silver purity of their currency to make their currency more trustworthy in the market, thus expanding that country's influence. He states that small changes in the purity of the coins then can have a large effect on the market. The pair meet Wise, a money exchanger who flirts with Holo. They test the new Trenny silver coins and Holo discovers that the silver purity is actually decreasing instead of increasing as planned. Lawrence wonders at the scheme and Sharon's trickery. Holo recalls the hunting habits of wolves to often hunt from different angles to chase their prey, inspiring Lawrence, who believes that Sharon cannot be working alone and a greater scheme is afoot. Lawrence goes to Mylone Trading Company, who helps him investigate Sharon. They find that Sharon is spreading misinformation amongst many merchants to get them to buy a lot of Trenny silver coins, which will decrease in value. When the merchants have realized they are tricked, they will immediately move to dump the silver coins, which will devalue the Trenny silver on the currency exchange. The next day they meet Marlhide, the branch manager for Mylone Trading Company in Pasio. He reveals that Sharon is working for Medio Trading Company, and that Mylone will work with Lawrence to preempt the scheme. This would make Lawrence very rich, and he dreams of building and opening a shop with the profits from the deal, a dream of every traveling merchant. Holo professes that she has been lonely for hundreds of years, and that she will be alone again when they part ways. She cries and the two hug each other. Suddenly, Holo detects intruders outside their room and the two run away from the ambush. They flee to Mylon Trading Company, but Holo stays behind to distract the intruders so Lawrence can escape safely. Lawrence appeals to Marlhite for help, but although Marlhite is sympathetic, he states that the trading company has no financial incentive to help Lawrence and Holo. A letter arrives from Medio, revealing that Medio knows that Holo is actually a wolf and will hand her over to the church. Lawrence and Marlhite discuss their situation, and they determine that Medio Trading Company is trying to blackmail Mylon Trading Company from preempting the plan and that Medio probably has not gathered enough Trenny silver of its own. They determine that since Trenny is collecting old coins and lowering their silver purity, they are looking to increase their money supply of silver coins, and the kingdom must be in a bad economic situation. A large trading company can then gather a large amount of Trenny coins and negotiate favorable terms with the kingdom of Trennys, as the trading company would control a large amount of their currency. Lawrence and Marlhite strike a deal that Marlhite will help to rescue Holo while the Mylon Trading Company begins negotiations with the kingdom of Trennys. Holo and Lawrence would then escape the city, which would remove Medio's leverage against Mylon in their negotiations with Trennys. Mylon's agents locate the warehouse where Holo is kept. They rescue Holo in an escape disguised as a robbery. Holo and Lawrence reunite in the underground tunnels and flee from the warehouse. Holo reveals that Lawrence's former student Chloe from Paslow had helped to imprison her, and that the village and its Earl Erhandot must be working with the Medio Trading Company. Chloe wants to turn Holo over to the church so that the Paslow village can live free from the legend of Holo. Lawrence tells his Mylon associates that Earl Erhandot is involved in the scheme while Holo and Lawrence flee using the city's tunnels. Chloe and men from Medio chase the pair and use hunting dogs, but the hunting dogs flee when Holo howls at them. However, they are soon cornered and trapped. Lawrence confronts Chloe on her role in the scheme. That Paslow as a wheat-producing village is likely to be paid in many silver Trenny coins, which would help the Medio Company and Earl Erhandot stockpile the currency. This would then allow favorable negotiations with the Trenny Kingdom, such as eliminating the tariff that exists on the Paslow wheat. Chloe asks Lawrence to surrender Holo due to his long trading relationship with Paslow village, but when he refuses, Chloe orders the Medio men to kill him. Holo transforms into her wolf form to defend Lawrence and goes on a rampage. Lawrence, who had been previously stabbed, faints. Lawrence later wakes up in Mylon Trading Company after Holo had led Mylon to where Lawrence was before leaving. Marlhite reveals that the scheme had worked and the negotiations with Trenny went well for the trading company. Mylon took large losses in amassing the silver coins, which means the overall profit was small. However, a peace offer from Medio Company helped with some of the cost, giving Lawrence some opportunity for profit. Lawrence decides to take his share in pepper as it is easy to travel, and the two part ways. A letter arrives informing Lawrence of Holo's return, and the two leave the company while Marlhite muses that Lawrence is traveling with Spice and Wolf. Lawrence decides to buy Holo cold weather clothing to help her hide from the church. He goes to Wise to exchange his Lamiani gold piece for Trenny silver coins. The two go to a clothing shop and Lawrence leverages his relationship with Mylon Trading Company for a better deal. He also employs a technique for negotiation by buying low-quality clothes at a high price and high-quality clothes for Holo at a discounted price. They also use Holo's charm to reduce the cost on her new clothes. Lawrence reveals that he can later sell the low-quality clothes in another town up north and recuperate the cost of the clothes, while ensuring a good value on the high-quality clothing. At their next destination, the town of Porasan, Lawrence meets with a representative of Latparan Trading Company to sell the pepper from Mylon Trading Company. The two merchants use scales to determine the fair price of Lawrence's pepper. However, Holo spills her drink on purpose to reveal that the table the scale is on is slanted and that the Latparan merchant was attempting to cheat them. Lawrence asks that in return for not reporting the attempt to cheat him, Lawrence proposes a deal that Lawrence buys twice the amount of the deal on credit, which he will use to get high-quality armor that he can sell and then repay Latparan. As they leave Porasan for the city of Reuvenhagen, Holo asks why Lawrence still sold the pepper in Porasan, and Lawrence reveals that since Reuvenhagen has a tariff, the future profit of keeping the peppers would have been low. While on the road, they meet the shepherd Nora, who grants a traditional shepherd blessing to Lawrence in exchange for coin. She asks if Lawrence would like to hire her, as she will help to protect their wagon against wolves. Holo is uneasy as wolves and shepherds are natural enemies, but they agree to hire and travel with Nora to the next town. On the road, they discover that Nora is an orphan raised in the church that became a shepherd after she rescued her dog Enoch. However, the church does not trust her, so they give her fields that are full of wolves, and she offers her skills in deterring wolves to travelers so that she can eventually be financially independent from the church. As they part ways, Lawrence pays Nora very well for her services. He states that he wants to establish a favorable relationship in case he comes upon a trading scheme that has to do with wool in the future. when knowing a local shepherd may be useful. In town they head to the Lohan Merchant Association where Lawrence is a member. Jacob the branch master greets Lawrence happily. Lawrence states that he is here to see Lemurio Trading Company, as he is selling his armor goods to them. Since he bought the goods wholesale from Latparent on credit, he plans to sell them to Lemurio at the regular price, making twice the profit while the two companies sort out his credit. When they arrive at Lemurio, however, they discover that the armor market has completely collapsed and Lawrence is in incredible debt. Lemurio has bought his debt from Latparent, and now Lawrence has 2 days to repay the debt. Since Lemurio also suffered very badly from the armor market collapsing, they are eager to collect on Lawrence's debt. If he does not repay the debt, Lohan Merchant Association will have to assume Lawrence's debt and Lawrence would be barred from further activities as a merchant. Holo promises to help him as they return to the Lohan Merchant Association for help. However, Lohan cannot help Lawrence as Lawrence was not swindled or a victim of fraud, and that Lawrence's bankruptcy was due to the market crashing and Lawrence's greed. Lawrence attempts to find merchants willing to lend him money, but they all refuse him. He lashes out at Holo, who returns back to the inn. Lawrence manages to get a few coins, but not enough for his debt. He apologizes to Holo for treating her badly, and Holo teases Lawrence for being too nice. They reconcile, and Holo comes up with a plan to deal with Lawrence's debt. The next day they meet with Hans Lemurio and propose a gold smuggling scheme, using a dissatisfied member of the church. They will enlist the help of Nora, who has been treated badly by the church and forced to go on routes full of wolves while stuck continuously in debt to the church. Lemurio dismisses the plan as a reckless plan only a bankrupt person would try, and Holo points out that Lemurio himself is also bankrupt and that his employees are abandoning him. Lemurio reluctantly agrees to help the pair use their contacts to sell the smuggled gold as part of the scheme and will postpone Lawrence's debt repayment until the gold is smuggled. Lawrence and Holo later meet Nora and detail the plan. Lawrence will pay 20 Lamiani gold coins, a very large sum for a shepherd to guide sheep between Lamtra and Reuvenhagen, a route that is considered very dangerous but a usual route for Nora. Inside the sheep's stomach they will smuggle gold from the pagan town of Lamtra to the devout town of Reuvenhagen. Lawrence appeals to Nora's alienation from the rest of the town due to the church's influence, as they suspect her of having pagan powers because she has not lost any of her flock during her time as a shepherd. Her pay as part of the scheme would be enough for her to leave the town and the church behind as she always wanted, so she agrees. The next day the group leave Reuvenhagen for Lamtra, along with Liebert, who is from Lemurio Trading Company. They make camp for the night, but Holo and Nora detect wolves approaching. Nora keeps them away with her horn and the group arrive at Lamtra safely. Liebert returns with the gold, but it starts to rain on the return journey. Wolves start to surround them and Nora deploys Enoch and the sheep in the best formation to drive the wolves off. A wolf gets close to the back of the formation, but Holo glares at the wolf and it runs off. The group is surprised to hear an enormous howl come from the forest, and Holo determines that a younger wolf deity leads the wolf pack and is challenging Holo for traveling in their territory. Lawrence and Holo ask Liebert and Nora to go ahead while they distract the wolves. Lawrence leaves Holo, who will fight the younger wolf deity, and retreats to the edge of the forest. He meets men from the Lemurio Trading Company who betray him by tying him up and leaving him to be eaten by wolves. Lawrence manages to escape his bonds and reunite with Holo, who has chased the younger wolf spirit off. Holo would like to make Lemurio pay for his betrayal, but Lawrence asks if they can save Nora and Enoch first. Holo reluctantly agrees as she really doesn't like shepherds, and she turns into her wolf form. Lawrence rides on Holo to catch up to Nora and Lemurio's men. Holo confronts Lemurio's men and proves too much for them. Holo catches Liebert, who explains that Lemurio had betrayed them from the beginning. Since they have the gold, Lawrence explains that the three could split the gold and run off. This would allow them to live comfortably for a while, but Lemurio Trading Company would definitely go bankrupt, which would cause suffering for its employees and its families. The gold was also bought with Lemurio's funds in the first place. Therefore, Lawrence leaves Nora the gold and lets her decide if the smuggling operation will continue. Lawrence later reveals to Holo that when he inspected the gold it was far less than the original plan, which means that Lemurio Company was probably in an even worse situation than they had thought. They return to the city and capture Lemurio, who is alone since his employees have all deserted him. Lawrence proposed a deal to Lemurio. Since the gold is worth 1,000 Lamiani, he will sell the smuggled gold to Lemurio for 500 Lamiani as debt to be repaid over 10 years with a 10% interest. The Lohan Merchants Association will be the creditor for the debt, allowing Lawrence to leave the city and the contract obligations to his association. Meanwhile, Lemurio Trading Company would be saved from bankruptcy by having 1,000 immediate Lamiani from the smuggled gold. Lemurio reluctantly accepts. Lawrence then meets with Jacob, who is impressed with Lawrence's escape from bankruptcy. Lawrence then sells Lemurio's debt to him to Jacob to immediately cover his previous debt and the portion he owes Nora for her role in the scheme. With this, he breaks even with his finances unchanged. As they leave the city, Holo questions Lawrence on if he called her name when she was confronting Lemirio's men, and he dodges the question. He is amused to see she is irritated with him. Nora arrives to say goodbye, and she wishes them happiness on the rest of their journey together. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.